Welcome back to Rooted Hearts Homestead.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Rooted Hearts Homestead. This month, things are going to look a little different. We are going to do a little short series, and these are things that for us personally, as Rooted Hearts Homestead, make our homestead what it is. So let's start with number one. Number one for me personally is the kids. That's what really makes our homestead ours. As part of this little mini series that I'm doing, I'm going to take each and every one of these items and really break down what we chose, why we chose, how we do it, and the different choices that we are making to make it ours. For the kids, let's start with some basic things, like the number of kids that we have. Why 5? Well, we didn't exactly choose 5. I would say that Joseph and I went into it looking at two things. One, what is a practical number? And 2, what is the number God has for us? And when we had our 4, we're like, yeah, we're good. This is it. Then God laughed and was like, here's a 5th one, just to give you guys a little bit more excitement in your life. We had been praying that if we were supposed to have a 5th child, that child would come and it would be a total God thing. And I hope to share her story fully down the road. 5 was the number just because that's what God gave us. And does it mean that we're against having more children in the future? It would have to be a very God circumstance for us to add another child to our family at the moment. And those reasons are very practical. Those are things like finances, things like home space. And our home is 1,500 square feet, and we are working on adding more square footage to that. But at the moment, that's all we have. Trying to give everyone their own space. That is something that we have chosen to make a priority. Both my husband and I came from larger families where there were a lot of people in a lot of places all the time. And something that was important to us was that each of our children feel like they have their own area to call theirs, whether that is outside or inside. We want them to be their own person and have their own interests and have their own things. And so things like giving them their own room space, things like having them in charge of their own animal that they've picked out as their animal. And I'll go into more of that later. Things like making sure that we're not just putting them all in the same of everything. We're making that an individual decision. With that, though, comes challenges. So let's talk schooling real quick. We personally, for our kids, have chosen homeschooling for the past 2 years. That is not the way it is every year. We kind of run a democracy around here. We vote. We let the kids say, hey, we'd like to do this for schooling, or we'd like to do this for schooling. We give them the options, typically in January of the year, of what they could do. And then, depending on how the voting goes, depends on what we do. I'll give you an example of our oldest child. Our oldest is turning 12 this year. She has already decided what she wants to do for college, how she'd like to achieve that, and what schools she'd like to go to for that. Now, we are giving her choices based on those things for her education. Why we chose homeschool for this year is partially because of the changes in school that we've seen since COVID, and partially because of ease of movement for us. We've spent a lot of time having to send kids to school doing foster care. Any foster child that comes into your home, you have to send them to public school. You may not homeschool them. So once we were given the option to do what we wanted after our 2 children from foster care were adopted, it was important to us that we choose something that was individualized to what the needs of all of our children were, not just 1 or 2. We told our kids that year that they were going to be homeschooled, simply because of how much bouncing back and forth was still happening in school. So that was for the year of 2020. for the year of 2021, we've continued with that. And the schools that we have personally settled on is the Good and the Beautiful and Master Books. So I have my son's school here with me, and the reason I chose Master Books Math for my kids, we have used these in years past. I went to a homeschool convention probably 5 or 6 years ago and found them. They lay out math so nicely. You have a page that you read to the kids, and then your exercises are 1 or 2 days. So exercise 1 is just 1 day here, 1 page. Exercise 2 is 1 day. Exercise 3 is 1 day. It's just very simple how they go through and lay it out. It's 5 exercises, and typically, like I said, it's 1 page to 2 pages per day, which is very doable for the younger grades. Now, we're finding with 6th grade that the page tends to be 2 to 3 pages, but I would expect that. They expect more maturity and responsibility in the upper grades to be able to complete those things. So we love the Master Books Math, or Lessons for a Living Education. They also are a Christian-based curriculum, and so they bring God into their different things. I would say it is more Charlotte Mason-based, just a gentle learning, and it has worked really well for our kids. It's not about the time spent on something, but the practical application of that. And I feel like they do a really good job with their practical application. I can take stuff from their lessons and take them into the kitchen and teach them how to use stuff in the kitchen, or we can calculate out the area of something, or have stuff that is incredibly practical every day, and I love that. Not all math is that way. As far as the Good and the Beautiful is concerned, this is our first year using the Good and the Beautiful. It was one of 3 curriculums recommended to me, and I personally use it for their language arts and their handwriting. And their language arts covers quite a bit, and they say that their language arts covers phonics, reading, spelling, writing, literature, grammar and punctuation, and also art appreciation. And I would say that it does. We've been using it since June. We take the months of April and May off of school. We start light school in June and then full school in September. And what I mean by light school is we're just doing language arts and math. And then full school is language arts, math, handwriting, language, music, science, history. It's everything. So when we're just doing light school during the summer, this works really well for us because it encompasses so many items. I don't have to add anything else to it if I didn't want to be a full language arts program. So I don't have to have them reading other things. They choose a book to read for 30 minutes a day usually as part of this curriculum. It is assigned in here. Only thing that's not a part of this is their full reading program. But the Good and the Beautiful has reading books that you can purchase if you're looking to do that. So I really like that. I feel like their handwriting is much the same way. I have that right here. Very simple, all inclusive. I don't want to go to a page that my son's actually written on. So I can show you a blank page. They do art along with their handwriting, and I love that. They just did simple things. This is for my 6-year-old. So he'll trace the letter, write his name, and then connect the dots and color it in. That's his day for handwriting. And he does handwriting 2 to 3 days a week. He does 2 language lessons a week. We've just taken a really gentle approach to it because I feel like the Good and the Beautiful is a little bit advanced for kids. I went ahead and put my kids a little bit further back as far as grade level because they don't really have grade levels. It's not like if they're in 6th grade, they go in level 6. It's individual to the child. So that's all for schooling. Now let's talk animals. Each of our children is at a certain age allowed to pick an animal that they would like to be responsible for as part of our homestead. This works twofold. 1, they learn a ton of information about the animal. That is schooling all by itself. And 2, they also are beginning an understanding of responsibility of a consistent job. My hope is always that their animal will actually provide some sort of income or benefit to our homestead. And if it doesn't, I really encourage them to not choose that animal. So our 2 oldest children are the ones who have chosen so far. Josie has chosen chickens and poultry of all manner. She has desire to own every type of poultry, including an emu. We're not there yet. Her desire to do chickens has her researching chickens, understanding what their egg production is, why they have such a good egg production, what makes a good egg production, what's a good diet for the chickens, and she is in charge of all things chicken on our homestead. Not only does it take the pressure off of me to have to do everything, but she's able to go and run our chicken operation fully. She does not run our meat chicken operation or our meat turkey operation that I am in charge of, but pretty much the rest of the poultry, our year-round poultry, she is responsible for. I do check on things. I typically check on everything every Wednesday and Saturday. I'll go out, check on all the animals that we have, make sure everyone's got the proper bedding, make sure that it's done to the caliber that we want to for the health of our animals. Our second child, Beth, has chosen rabbits, and she's done an amazing job with that. I've done a lot of the research for her because she, at 9, mostly just likes taking care of the rabbits. She's not interested in doing all the research, but she knows how to properly care for her rabbits, what her rabbits need. She has a breeding schedule that she was working with. She's picked out her breeds. She's got all this stuff that she's learned, and I feel like it's more fun for her. She just likes the fuzzy bunnies, let's be honest. But that's something that she's in charge of the rabbits, and she's actually really good at taking care of them. Obviously, the kids that are under the age of 8 do not have their own animal. And that is simply because of maturity. I believe a child has the ability to do certain things at certain ages. Now, I expect a lot from my kids. My kids do their own laundry. They know how to make meals. They know how to take care of animals. They have their own zones that they clean every week. They are in charge of keeping their room clean, and they're in charge of getting their school done. I can show you how we kind of organize all this in a moment. I have some chore charts and things, but my expectations, as you will see from these charts, are bigger for the big kids and smaller for the little kids. Most of our kids each have, and again, this is based on age, they each have a poop chore. They each have an animal chore. Because our 3 youngest are not ready to have their own animal, their job right now is simply to help me in the animal chores I'm doing or help one of the older siblings in their animal chore. And I think that that's just important to have that camaraderie amongst the family. Doesn't mean that they always get along and it's happy and nobody fights. No. We definitely have all the different types of kids in our home. We have the ones who do, the ones who tell on what is doing, and the ones who assist the teller or the doer. It is a full home full of those challenges. And so I'm not going to lie about that. You know, we have to be careful and discipline. And first discipline is a tell. Second discipline is a consequence. And third discipline is usually something gets taken away. That's just what works well for our family. Typically, when I go to the tell, you kind of hang out with me for a bit. And that first level, if I see someone amping up, I'll remove them from the situation. If they are ruining someone else's play or intentionally causing problems, I will remove them from the situation. Say, hey, could you come and help me with, or say, hey, I need someone to go walk the dog, or could you take out the trash, or could you go run this upstairs for me? And it just breaks them out of that, and we try not to get to the second and third levels. The other thing at the first level of if I'm telling you you need to stop doing something, we always go back to the Bible and say, hey, what we're doing what God wants us to do? So things like children, obey your parents. The other verse that I really like is soft answer turns away wrath. So when we're replying to someone, that Proverbs 15:1. And then the other one is be kind to one another. Those are the 3 main verses that we use in our child training. And I find that it takes the authority not just from me, but it's because of what we believe is why we're doing certain things. But it also puts a higher responsibility to me to make sure that my words and my answers are there too. And I'm a sinner and I'm not perfect in that. I sometimes do snap or get angry at my kids. And being willing to come back on the flip side of it though and say, I'm sorry, that was the wrong way to reply, or I'm sorry, that was the wrong way to handle that, shows them the maturity and gives them an example of what it looks like as an adult. So they're not just having to do that as a child to apologize to siblings or friends that they have wronged. But I as an adult still go back and apologize. So now that we've talked about school and home and animals, what about just basic play with kids? I mean, how do we just hang? So our kids love video games. I am not going to deny that. That is something that both Joseph and I have loved as youth and still continue to love as adults. So one thing is our family is a pretty big gaming family. We play a lot of Minecraft together. And I do let my kids play electronics. They have allotted time. During the week, it is 30 minutes a day. That is what they get. They can choose what they would like to do in their 30 minutes, but they have 30 minutes per day to play in electronics. If they want to earn more time, they can do big jobs for me, doing a chore that I was planning on doing that they can do. But typically, they get 30 minutes of electronics a day during the week. And then on the weekends, it's a little bit more loose. Especially if it's snowing or raining, we want to give them time to play together or apart. If we don't have anything going on, I'm not as stressed about it. The other thing we do for fun is we love to play games, board games, card games, just whatever game that we are choosing that day. It's just fun. It's fun to play games and do that either as a group or just one-on-one individually. Usually once or twice a year, we also take the whole crew kayaking. Typically, we go to the same spaces every time. There's a lake that doesn't have a very strong current, and so it makes it so it's easy for the kids to go kayaking on, and we typically go kayaking first thing when it gets to like the first hottest day of the year, those random April days that get up to 80 or 90, we'll go kayaking and there's just nobody up at that lake and it's so fun. And then we also try to go sometime in the fall and we weren't able to this fall because we don't have enough space in our kayaks. So we'll have to remedy that before this next spring. So that is the very first thing that I think is amazing to have on a homestead. I have a whole list in here of things that I am excited to show you. So stay tuned. The videos this month are not going to be on a regular schedule, just based on when I actually get them filmed and then edited. So be sure and check back often to see if we've got another video up. Until then, God bless.